Hi guys, so I am here with my August reading wrap up. I'm going to try and make this as quick as possible because I actually read a lot of books in August. I read like 14 books, so I'm going to try and go through this as quickly as possible. So the first book that I read in August was Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. This is the second and final book in her Strange the Dreamer series. It kind of ends with a hint that maybe there could be more stories in this world, but like that the actual books themselves are like a duology. And oh my gosh, guys, I absolutely loved this book. I read Strange the Dreamer in July, and I read Muse of Nightmares at the beginning of August, and I just absolutely love it. It's such a unique and fantastic world, and I just absolutely loved it. Hands down, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Devil in Winter. This is a reread for me. It is the third book in her Wallflowers series. I absolutely love Lisa Kleypas, as you know, and I've been in the mood to reread some of her books. I've actually also reread this month Cold Hearted Rake. Which is the first book in her Ravenall series, which I also really loved. So that was a reread. I also reread Because You're Mine by Lisa Kleypas this month, which is the second book in her Capital Theatre duology. Which is one of my all-time favourite books of hers. It really sort of kick-started my Lisa Kleypas obsession. And then I also reread Then Came You. By Lisa Kleypas this month. So yeah, like I said, I reread quite a few of her books this month and obviously enjoyed all of them. That's why I reread them. So the next two books that I read were Royally Schooled and Royal Academy. These books were okay. They were quick reads. The first book, Royally Schooled, is the idea that this American woman that sort of moved to London, she's got a lot of responsibilities. She's looking after her sick father, and she goes for a job interview that she has absolutely no idea what it's for, other than it's like a tutor, and she somehow ends up tutoring two royal children and then falling in love with their older brother, who is the prince. It was okay. It just wasn't really anything crazy. I think that if there was potential there for a good book, but it was just kind of okay. And the second book, Royal Academy, is much the same. That's about the second eldest prince, so the prince that the character in the first book like is the tutor of. He's now going off to, you know, like uni or whatever, and he meets a girl there, and it was just like the potential was there, the baseline was there, but it just wasn't anything crazy. Like it was just okay. So they kind of got half marks, but they were okay. The next book that I read was Midnight Hunter by Brianna Hale. This is a book that I had seen on Instagram ages and ages ago, saw like a teaser for it, and I was like, oh, I really like the sound of that, and I could never find it, and then I saw it pop up again, and I was like, oh, I'll see if I can find it, and I did. It was out now, and I read it. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I really struggled to put this book down. It's set sort of, I think sort of after World War II, I want to say, but it's set in sort of, I can never remember for East Germany or West Germany, but basically with the Stasi officers, and you know, people are still being like forced into certain jobs, and you work for like the state, and it's just a bit of a drudge. And the female protagonist, I cannot remember her name for the life of me, is planning to escape with her father and friends. They've dug a tunnel, and then they're caught on the night of the raid. So she runs off trying to escape, but this famous Stasi officer who's called the Midnight Hunter tracks her down. But instead of torturing her, instead of throwing her in prison, he basically kind of kidnaps her. There's kind of a bit of Stockholm sort of syndrome going on in this, but it was kind of like a gradual falling for your enemy type romance, and I really enjoyed this book. It made me pick up another of her books, which was The Necromancer's Bride, which was a much shorter book. It was kind of like a novella, and it was just weird. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was like 1 out of 5. Did not enjoy that at all. Midnight Hunter was a completely different book, and I really enjoyed that one, but The Necromancer's Bride I did not enjoy at all. The next book that I read was The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. I loved this book. The previous 2 books in this series, I think it's the Girl Meets Duke series, I want to say, and I've enjoyed the previous 2 books in this series, but this one I absolutely loved. By far my favourite book in the series so far. Penny, or Lady Penelope, she's a bit of an eccentric. She has a house, and she basically lives in it by herself, and she takes in all these rescued animals that nobody else wants. So a little hedgehog, a goat, a dog with like a wheelchair for back legs. She just takes in all these weird and wonderful creatures, but then a guy moves in next door, and he isn't noble, but he's made his money by sort of crippling the nobility, so like buying up their debts and things like that. So he's taken over the house next door, and he plans to flip the house basically. But the problem is, he knew that he would be next to Lady Penelope, but he thought that she would be like this old spinster or something, and then he meets her, and she's quite young, she's beautiful, but she's eccentric with all these animals, and he's like, I'm never going to get anyone to buy this house. So he basically tries to bargain with her to get rid of all these animals, and it was just so fun. It did touch on a bit of a serious topic towards the end, with regards to sort of a family friend potentially trying to abuse Penny when she was younger, but it's dealt with quite gently, I would say. But I really enjoyed this book, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5. The next book that I read was also a reread, and that was Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. And I actually only read this book like at the beginning of the year, like January, February time, but I just really wanted to reread it, so I did. I absolutely love Maya Banks' Highlander romances. I've read a couple more of her books that are not set in that sort of time, and I haven't enjoyed them half as much as I've enjoyed her Highlander series. So yeah, really enjoyed that one. And then the last books that I read were all part of the same series, and the first one is Wanting Mr. Kane, the second one is Breaking Mr. Kane, and the third one is Loving Mr. Kane. These, I don't know what it is about them, because I started reading the first one and I was like, it's okay, but I'm not loving it. But then it ended on kind of a cliffhanger, and I was like, oh, I want to see what happens. So then I picked up the second one, and the same thing again. Like, I was like, oh, okay, and then boom, cliffhanger. And so yeah, I've just kind of been carrying on. It's an okay series. I'd probably give them all sort of around the 2.53 out of 5, but they just kind of, I just want to know what happens. And it's about sort of a girl she's about 19, and she's always been in love with a guy that's older than her, and then it's when he finally like realizes that she likes him and things, and it's just okay. Like, it's nothing crazy, but it's nothing particularly bad either. It's just kind of an alright series. I don't know what that means, but yeah. So that's everything that I read this month, guys. Sorry I sort of blazed through it, but yeah, I did read quite a lot this month. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Happy reading.